Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? The only reason I know you're listening to another episode of the World Famous University Love, the best podcast in one, two, three galaxies. Ladies and gentlemen, you and I, we just call this show Online Marketing Moves. We are coming to you live today. Today is Saturday, February the 15th, 2025. Ladies and gents, I'm telling you, when your kid gets sick, look out. It's been a rough week. Okay, we're back. We're recording the episode. Today we are going to talk about myths. Ugh. One myth that I saw this week. I didn't watch the Super Bowl halftime show, but I heard about it. And they told me that Serena Williams went out there and crip walk. People love to say that Serena Williams is from Compton, but she's really not. And that's a myth. And there are a lot of myths, and things that you can get away with in marketing. So let's get into this right now. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Serena Williams. I watched King Richard. My wife, we watched that movie, and they talked about how they was living in Compton, and they got coaching. They moved to Florida when I think her oldest sister Venus was like 11 or 12. So they had to make Serena like 10 when they moved to Florida. So I'm like, you know, 10 years old, you wasn't even born in Compton. You lived there for like maybe 8 years. The woman's 40 now, so 20% of her life she lived in California. The other 80% she lived in other places, mainly Florida. So I always laugh and chuckle whenever I hear people say, "Oh, Serena's from Compton. That's why she's crip walking." Blah 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 blah. No, she's not from Compton. Okay, and I always laugh whenever I see. I'll give you another myth. You know, drug dealers are intelligent. I've talked about this in past episodes, but I'm always blown away when I see the older I get and the more the smarter uh, I get common sense. I get more common sense as you get a little older, and I'm just like, why do we glorify? It doesn't matter if you're the Italian mafia, you're a drug dealer, you're a gangbanger. Why do people in America, can't speak for other countries, but why do we glorify criminals? Criminals are idiots at the end of the day. Because I know it sounds good. Uh, it's just like I listened to a Planet Money episode one time, and they was interviewing Rick Ross. He was freeway free freeway Rick Ross. He was a big time drug dealer in the 80s. I'm using quotation marks, so you can't see audio. And he talked like, I could have been CEO of a corporation, blah blah blah. No, you could not. This is a bullshit corporation. Selling drugs does not make you a genius because the government in America, they know who sells the dope. They bring the dope in, especially in the 80s. They brought the dope in. They would find a goofball like say Rick Ross. Say, hey, we know you peddling drugs, And a lot of times, a lot of these people, criminals, mobsters, gangsters, whatever you want to call them, a lot of times they work with cops. They are more of a snitch than you and I can ever be, because you and I, the average person that is not a criminal, we mind our business. So I don't have any interaction. I rarely have an interaction with the police. You rarely have an interaction with the police. But the myth is, these guys, man, they, you know, I see, I saw 50 Cent get into a dust up with the guy Big Meech. And it's like, oh, Big Meech came home and now he's hanging out with my enemy, the ops or whatever, And now 50 Cent's like, oh, Big Meech, he was a rat. But 90% of the people that sold drugs, they go to jail. I'm gonna say 99% of them are tattletales. They're rats. You see it all the time now. You see people come home. You see people get out of jail. They get on these different platforms, and they're like, "Yeah, I did 10 years." Blah 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 blah. So Serena's not from Compton. Drug dealers can be CEOs. These are what we call marketing myths. Okay, and there are plenty more. We can keep going on and on and on and on. What what's another myth? What's another myth that you can think that you can think? Um, let's see. Another myth that I know is you have to be you have to follow a channel. You have to follow a script to be successful. No, there is no there's no right way, there's no wrong way when it comes to marketing. There's no right way, there's no wrong way when it comes to promoting your business. You don't have to go on Facebook. You know, you can still use you still can use the yellow page. You can still use billboard. You don't have to just be on social media. You don't have to be on TikTok to get rich. There are plenty of ways you can go about promoting your business, promoting your brand, promoting yourself. You don't have to be on social media. That's a myth. People think you got to be on all the socials. Do you? No. And besides, you don't. You would rather have somebody. You would rather pay somebody to do all that stuff for you. The more that you can pass off, because trying to post on Instagram, it's dumb. It's a big waste of time. And I saw the other day. Speaking of myths, I saw the other day this guy. He was cutting these. He was doing all this Valentine's nonsense. Valentine's is a myth. Matter of fact, Valentine's is a hustle. It's a scheme. It's a scam. Granted, listen. I love my wife. I love my wife to death. I don't have to wait for them. I don't have to wait one day after the year to say, "Here you go, honey. Here's some flowers." You can buy flowers anytime. You can be nice to your significant other anytime, any day of the week. It doesn't have to be on Valentine's. And yesterday, Valentine's Day was on a Friday. And that's even a bigger scam because now people are going to run to these restaurants. They're going to upcharge you. The service is not going to be great. And then you're going to be upset that you spent all this money. And I saw people having, yeah, I saw something that said Galentine's Day. That's stupid. Then I saw some guys, they was sitting around in pajamas or something. And they was like, Valentine's Day. I said, this is why I don't deal with people much. I like people, but I can only do so much. All this, it's like when women are like, uh, you know, it's like when single moms are like, Happy Father's Day to me, because I do both. No. You are their mom. You are not their mom and dad. You are the mother. Now, hey, that's just the way it is. You know, my dad was my dad and my mom was my mom. If something would have happened to either one of them, I would have said, "Thanks, Dad. You're mom and dad." No, you're just your dad, your pops. And my mom the same thing. If something would have happened to my dad when I was a kid, now I wouldn't be like, "Mom, you had to be mom and dad." I said, you was my mom. You had to do a lot, but you still at the end of the day, you're my mom. You can't do both. You are not mom and dad. You're not dad and mom. When my wife goes out of town, um, and I'm at home with my daughter, I don't go, "Well, baby girl, I gotta be mom and dad this weekend." It don't work like that. Another myth. You can't be both parents. Okay, you can only be one or the other. So pick one. Whichever sex you was born with, you could be the mom, you could be the dad. You can't be both. Okay, so these are myths. So you can't be a mom and a dad. Serena Williams is not from Compton. Uh, drug dealers can drug dealers are not geniuses. Criminals are not geniuses. And let's see what else. What's another myth? What's another myth? You- Let me think. I used to watch a lot of sports. Sports. A sports myth is no. Us. I remember when I stopped watching I stopped watching basketball right around the time where people just started launching 3 pointers because they would tell you, hey man, a long 2 pointer, you might as well shoot a 3 pointer instead of a long 2 pointer. That don't make sense. That's stupid. That's a Ladies and gentlemen, when you're playing basketball, the object of the game is to score as many points as possible. Whether you shoot a layup, you shoot a mid-range jumper, you shoot a 3 pointer, it does not matter. What you want to do is make sure those shots that you select go in the basket as often as possible. So the idea that, hey, instead of just taking a long two, take a three, that's a myth. That's stupid. That doesn't work. Another myth. I remember when I was a kid, they would say, you gotta you gotta have a great running back to win. You gotta have you would prefer to have a great running back, but what you want to the most important thing that you can do is have a great offensive line and a great running back. If you have both, then you are doing A-OK. Look at Dallas Cowboys in the '90s. They had a great offensive line. They had a great running back. Emmitt Smith, the offensive line, they produced big time. 3 championships later. Oh, this year the Eagles. As I told you, I don't watch football, but I read it every now and then. I read the Eagles had a great offensive line, and then they got a great running back, the New York Giants, Saquon Barkley. And mix those two, boom, boom, boom. People told you, oh, running backs don't matter. Running backs don't matter. Running backs don't matter. That was the thing I've heard the last few years. Running backs don't matter. Running backs don't matter. Well, Bucko, running backs still matter. Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, the Eagles' offensive line. They went. They won the Super Bowl. So running backs do matter. They still matter, ladies and gentlemen. That's a myth. Now, there are things that and another myth. Another myth that you got to get away from is that you need to find somebody and emulate them. Hey, can you find somebody? Yes. Do you need to find somebody? No. Do you need to do exactly what this other person is doing as far as running a business, marketing? No. Those are the myths that people tell you. You don't need there. There's no. There's no. You have to set your own formula. You have to have your own plan. You need to know where you want to go. You need to know what you want to do to be successful as possible. There is no actual, hey, do this blueprint. Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, they did things very different, and both had a successful business. Bill Gates, he said, hey, Microsoft can work with any computer, blah blah blah. Steve Jobs said, no, Apple is gonna work with Apple. That's it. We have the frame, so the Apple products can work with Apple products. Microsoft said, hey, we'd rather be more inclusive. Two different strategies, two different results, both successful, right? Of course. And so these myths that you think are, oh, this, you know, no, they are what they are. Just myths. I remember when I was a kid and I would watch wrestling in the '80s. In the '80s, everybody was bulked up. The Hulk Hogan, the Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, they all had big muscles. So you had to have big muscles to be a star in the WWF. And then I remember in the '90s, the early '90s, that was a myth because then it became Bret Hart's, the Shawn Michaels, One, two, three kid came along in that time. They wasn't the biggest guys in the world, and they still became successful in the sport of pro wrestling. So being a big, hulked up, jacked up, steroid professional wrestler, you didn't have to do that in the 90s. That was a myth of the 80s. Okay, and so that went away, and now you see people they probably weigh like 170 pounds. The rest that's neither here nor there. So, ladies and gentlemen, myths are what they are, myths. Now, the, the best thing that you can do is it's like whenever I used to think there was a I used to think there was a big I used to think there was a big uphill climb you had to do with if you wanted to write. I thought you had to sit there and bump your head against the wall. But all you have to do if you want to be a writer, all you have to do is write. It sounds very easy, but a lot of people don't do it. They say they want to do it, but then they don't do it. Whenever I want to write a poem, there's no rhyme, there's no reason. I can look out, I can see some grass, I can see the sun. I'll go, "Man, let's write a poem." I can write one in about 10 minutes. If you need to write emails, you want to email people every day, you can always find reasons, you can always find situations, you can always find things to write about. There's always something to talk about. You know, beating your brain up for material, that's a myth. You don't have to do that. Just be observant every day, and you always have content to create. You always have content to produce. So these are a few myths. There are marketing myths that we will talk about in the future. But I just want to bring up myths, because I was chuckling this week. They was like, "Oh, Serena's so confident." I'm like, the woman lived there for like 8 years. She's 40, I think she's 39, 40, something like that. So that's like 20%. So that's like me saying I'm from California. I lived there for 3 years. You know, 3 out of 45. That's not it's not a lot. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back tomorrow with another episode of Online Marketing Moves. Uh, until then, thank you for listening. God bless each and every one of you. Check us out on YouTube, subscribe, uh, and yeah, I appreciate you for listening. And we'll be back tomorrow with our new episode of Online Marketing Moves. Until then, my name is Tony Rizzano. Thank you for listening. God bless. As always, everybody. Peace.